What if I told you we could find just how gruesome the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was in the book of Psalms, written hundreds of years before the crucifixion took place? Flip with me to Psalms 22. We're going to read verse 1. My God, why have you forsaken me? Does it sound familiar? Why are you so far from helping me and from the words of my groaning? My God, why have you forsaken me? Was said by Jesus when he was on the cross, because he was forsaken. He embodied sin at that moment. He was separate from the Father for the first and for the only time in his existence. And we know he's everlasting, from eternal to eternal. So this one point on the cross was the only time that he was ever separate from the Father, or the Holy Spirit for that matter. That's why I said, why have you forsaken me? Because we've never been forsaken. Even if you don't believe in God, you've not been forsaken. He loves you and he's calling you. But Jesus was forsaken because he embodied sin for us. That alone is painful, to be separate from the love, from the grace of the Father, because apart from God, there is no goodness, there is no grace, there is no mercy, there is no love, because God is the embodiment of everything good and everything gracious. And where he's not, that stuff is not. And embodying the fullness of sin, he was completely separate from good, because sin is apart from good, so there was no good there, because he embodied that on the cross, not because he deserved it, but he took that from you and I because we deserved it. But if you want to get into how gruesome it was, you can continue to read through Psalms 22, but I'm going to start at 14 because I think there's a key there. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. All my bones are out of joint. Oh. My heart is like wax. It is melted within me. And that's fully why I think Jesus died of a broken heart. It said that his heart had melted within him. Now, a lot of critics think he died of a broken heart because when the spear had pierced him and the water had come out of him. That's a phenomenon that science has studied and now come to the conclusion that people can die of a fluid buildup, and we call that heartbreak. I don't know if y'all know that, but you can literally die of a broken heart, but it is through so much grievance and so much pain that your heart literally can't take it, and fluid builds up and it breaks your heart. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue clings to my jaws. You have brought me to the dust of death. For dogs have surrounded me. The congregation of the wicked has enclosed me. They pierced my hands and they pierced my feet. They pierced his hands and they pierced his feet to put him on that cross, but it was our sin that held him up there. I can count all of my bones. All of my bones. Think of how gruesome the passion was when you see him getting whipped and put on that cross, but that was G. That was G-rated to the extent of what he went through. And we know that that was gruesome, but what he went through made that look G-rated. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. We know that happened because it's recorded in the New Testament. This prophecy had came to pass, and we can see just how gruesome it was. It was emotionally gruesome. It was physically gruesome. The embodiment of sin, going through something no human could withstand. They would have died of blood loss long before they made it up that hill. Long before they were nailed to that cross, with what he went through, they would have died. They probably would have died at the initial gouging. But Jesus knew a task had to be fulfilled. And I wasn't going to do it. And you weren't going to do it. So he fulfilled it for us. But never forget what he went through for us. And this is recorded in Psalm, which was hundreds of years beforehand. This was actually his ancestor David. King David, he said, the Messiah will come from your seed. And it did. And Jesus fulfilled this prophecy and more. But looking at this, we see just the pain that he went through. For me and for you, that's a love that is so hard to understand and so hard to grasp. That's a love that you and I don't deserve. That's a love that we aren't capable to give, but he is. and he does. It's times like these we realize just how amazing and wonderful our God is, who has poured out into us and who loves us despite us not deserving it. Never forget what Jesus did for you. And if you don't know him, he's knocking on the door to your heart right now, calling for you to come home because he loves you. He doesn't want you to come back so he can point his finger at you and be angry with you. He wants to love you, and he wants a relationship with you, and he created you perfectly in his image. So come home to him. He did this for you. Thank you guys for tuning in to my first YouTube video. Many more to come.